They say you can tell a lot about a neighborhood by its gates. How high, how clean, how stubbornly they creak at dawn when the old guard walks the perimeter, clipboard in hand. Well, let me tell you. What happens when someone tries to paint your gate, and your life, the wrong color? They fined me $750 for non-compliant gate paint, even though I had the exact color code approved in writing. 3 months earlier, 14 days to pay, the letter said, or they'd slap a lien on my home. So, I did what any stubborn civil engineer would do. I chained the gate they claimed to own and waited for the fireworks. Welcome to HOA Society. I'm Daniel Ross out of Fort Worth, and if you'd told me 6 months ago I'd be fighting foreclosure over the color beige, well, I'd have laughed, but here we are. This story, it's about how I went from grief and anger to rewriting the rules for every neighbor on Meadowlark Court. Dad left me that little brick place after he passed. He was the kind who paid dues early, trimmed the hedge like there was going to be a parade. The HOA loved him. Me? They called me in for mailbox height, then a rustic fence, then, of course, that infamous gate. The third notice arrived before I'd even unpacked all his boxes, just as I was figuring out how to exist in the echo he left behind. I was still living on coffee and late-night advice from a man who wasn't there when she showed up. Linda Cranford, HOA president, retired realtor, clipboard tight under one arm, eyes sharper than her bob haircut. "You're Daniel Ross?" she asked, like it was a crime. "That gate color's out of compliance." I told her I had the email. She just laughed. "Emails aren't binding." You know what I mean? That's when I realized this wasn't about paint. It was about power. Dad used to say, "Never let anyone bully you with your own money." So, I started digging. County records, plat maps, covenants so old they smelled like mildew. After a day of chasing paper, I found a hiccup. Turns out the HOA's so-called common access lot behind my fence had never actually been deeded right. Not since a developer merger back in '98. No valid transfer. No updated parcel ID. My engineer brain fired up. In Texas, if the HOA skips a deed transfer, that land can revert to prior ownership after 20 years. The previous owner? A defunct LLC that owed $300 in back taxes. So, I paid those taxes and filed a notice of interest. Didn't own it yet, but I was in the door. That night, I sat on my porch with Paul Henson, my neighbor, a retired firefighter with a laugh that sounded like loose gravel. "They fined me for my flagpole," he told me, sipping coffee from a beat-up thermos. Said it's 2 feet too tall. I told them it's shorter than my patience. We started keeping a paper trail together. Every notice scanned, every meeting recorded. Texas is a one-party consent state, just saying. The next HOA meeting, if you've never been to one, imagine the DMV married a church basement. Linda sat up front, flanked by the nod squad. When my turn came, I asked, "Under what authority are you fining without a majority vote?" She blinked, said something about discretionary enforcement rights. I held up the Texas Property Code. Her smile got thin, real quick. A week later, headlights loitered by my mailbox after midnight. Next morning, a new violation email. My trash bins were visible at 10:57 p.m. Coincidence. I started logging everything. They escalated, certified letters, legal threats, even pulled in their attorney, Kent Mullery. Irony being, I'd worked with his firm before. I built a reverse file, numbered every citation, cross-referenced every clause. My own little wall of defense, brick by brick. Linda came by again, this time all smiles and sugar. "Daniel, the board's prepared to escalate unless you comply." "With what exactly?" I asked. "Community standards," she replied, peeking past me like she owned my front step. "You're not a good fit for Meadowlark." That line stuck, like being voted off your own island. The next morning, I had 3 more violations. Noise, lighting, unauthorized camera for filming my own porch. I filed a retaliation complaint. Paul and I weren't alone anymore. Carla, a real estate attorney with ink-stained cuffs, joined our little alliance. "If they weaponize bylaws, we weaponize statutes," she said, waving a sandwich. She looked over my maps, grinned. "If the deed lapsed and you cured the taxes, you can file for quiet title. 6 months, maybe less, and the burden's on them to prove they own it." That was leverage. The HOA kept circling, like vultures over a lunchbox. March came, and with it, the public shaming, a hearing. with my name taped in red on the clubhouse door. Carla came along, recorder running. Linda listed off every supposed violation. Carla calmly reminded her, Texas law required a 30-day notice and a public vote. Linda tried to push through. Carla just snapped her folder shut like a judge's gavel. A few neighbors actually clapped. The tide, for once, shifted. Then it got ugly. An anonymous police wellness check at 2 a.m., someone claimed I was yelling threats. The cop was apologetic, said it happens a lot with HOAs. I logged it. More violations, more harassment. But May brought news. The tax office confirmed my payment. Parcel redemption complete. Quiet title pending. But for now, that back lot was mine, and the HOA didn't know it yet. Midsummer. They doubled the fines, plastered my name on delinquency notices, whispered foreclosure. But every letter they sent just built my case. In June, I filed the quiet title petition. July 12th, the countdown to court began. Meanwhile, Linda tried to spin the neighborhood against me. Forum posts, accusations, blurry photos of my gate. Some neighbors took her side, but others, like Grace, a mom of two, quietly asked for help. It's not about breaking the HOA, I told her. It's about making them follow their own rules. Then, the board tried a surprise. Emergency dues hike. $175 a head to cover legal contingencies. Carla fired off a cease and desist, but they ignored it. A week later, someone from the board filed a complaint with my insurer, trying to get my policy canceled for risk. I sent proof, photos, receipts, inspections. The complaint vanished, but I logged the timing. Retaliation comes in waves. By fall, I'd found something more, records of landscaping contracts, $18,400, all paid to Linda's cousin. No bids, no disclosure. Conflict of interest, Carla called it. We started a group. Neighbors who were tired of being steamrolled uploaded everything to a shared drive, started pushing back, together. October 14th, Courthouse Day. Judge Gomez, fair, sharp, by the book. Linda's lawyer tried to argue de facto control. Carla countered with title documents and my tax receipts. The judge asked for proof the HOA owned the land since 1998. The room went quiet. She issued an interim order recognizing my claim to the lot. Linda's face went sheet white. The next day, Linda arrived with 2 cops and a clipboard, demanded I unchain the gate. I handed her the court order. One officer read it, shrugged. Looks legitimate. The sound of that chain rattling in the warm air was the quietest victory I'd ever had. HOA didn't go down easy. Retaliation ramped up. Citations slipped under my door at 3 a.m., code inspectors. Even anonymous complaints at work. But each time, my documentation held. Paul said I was living in a movie. Most days, it felt more like an audit. But the more they pushed, the more our neighbors pushed back. We formed a reform committee, drafted a new charter, term limits, financial audits, open votes, and, most importantly, no enforcement on land the HOA doesn't own. The day the reforms passed, I handed over the deed to the lot. Judge North, the temporary admin, said, "You're offering leverage for legacy." Smart. I just wanted peace. And finally, we got it. 3 months later, Linda accepted a plea deal, probation, restitution, barred from board service. The HOA's insurance returned. Assessments dropped. And now, when I walk past the gate, the plaque reads, "In memory of Edward Ross, who taught his son to keep receipts and keep faith." Justice isn't loud, it's patient, it's public. And if you're fighting your own battle, don't go quiet, don't go alone. How far should an HOA go? Where's the line between order and overreach? Drop your take below, because the only thing stronger than a chain on a gate is a community willing to stand together.